All right, so listeners sent in a mountain of stuff about ChatGPT. Articles, research, you name it.
Seems like it's on everyone's mind these days.
It is. And they want the inside scoop.
Yeah.
How does it actually work, We're going to break it down in this deep dive.
Demystifying the ChatGPT craze. I like it.
Exactly. And one article, this is interesting, pointed out that ChatGPT can write like a human, but it's just predicting one word at a time. Like it's picking the most likely word over and over. Is that really all it is?
Well, it's more nuanced than that, of course. But you've hit on a key point. Probability is huge in how ChatGPT works. Huge. It's trained on tons and tons of text data, learning how likely one word is to follow another.
Okay, so it's all about the stats. But then wouldn't it just spit out the same phrases, like on repeat, if it's just picking the most likely next word?
Right, you'd think so, but that's where it gets clever. ChatGPT doesn't just look at single words. It's all about the context, the sequence of words. One article had a cool analogy. Think about predicting letters. Like, if you just went with the most frequent letters, you'd get gibberish. But with 2 letters, you see shesh, he, in popping up, right? ChatGPT takes this to a whole other level. Vast sequences.
So it's about the flow, like how words naturally go together, like peanut butter and jelly, almost always together. And the article mentioned n-grams. What are those again?
An n-gram is just a sequence of n things, in ChatGPT's case, words. So it learns the probability of combinations of n words, not just jelly after peanut, but the whole peanut butter and jelly deal.
Right. It's like it's devoured every recipe out there. Okay, but even with all that data, how does it handle stuff it's never seen before? New sentences, ideas, that kind of thing.
That's where the language model comes in. Just like scientists use models to represent the messy real world, ChatGPT uses a language model.
A model of language.
Yeah.
How do you even build that? Language is so complex.
Imagine Galileo. He didn't have to drop objects from every point in the universe to figure out gravity. Right. He made some observations, did experiments, and bam, laws of motion. ChatGPT's similar. It doesn't need every sentence. It uses its data to build a model of the underlying patterns.
So the model is like its rule book for this crazy world of language. But what is the model, like technically? What's it made of?
It's a neural network.
Neural network? Now, those sound seriously complicated, like digital brains or something.
It's fascinating. Our brains, they process information with all these interconnected neurons, right? Neural networks, it's a simplification, but they try to copy that with layers of connected nodes, tweak the connections, train the network, and it can spot patterns, make predictions. And in ChatGPT's case, right like us,
We built a brain to understand our brains. Wild. Okay, but hold on. If it's just numbers and connections, how does it get meaning? Words aren't just sounds. They represent ideas, right? How does ChatGPT make that leap?
that's where it gets really interesting. ChatGPT uses something called embeddings.
Embeddings. All right, you lost me.
Picture a meaning space. Every word is a point in the space, and words with similar meanings, closer together.
So cat is closer to dog than tractor in this space.
Exactly. ChatGPT uses these embeddings, these maps of meaning, to get the relationships between words, and then bam, it can write text that reflects those relationships.
Okay, so ChatGPT can learn these language patterns, right? All this cool stuff. But are there limits? It's not actually thinking, right?
That's a big one, yeah. As amazing as ChatGPT is, we got to remember it's a machine. No real understanding like us. No consciousness.
Right, right. So even with all that data, processing power, there are things it just can't do.
For sure. One article called it computational irreducibility. Bit of a mouthful, but super interesting concept.
Yeah, that one had me thinking for a bit.
Okay, so imagine a simple machine, like a pendulum swinging. Easy to predict where it'll be, right? Predictable pattern. But what about the weather?
Whole different story.
Exactly. Tons of variables, interactions, impossible to predict perfectly. You gotta let the whole system play out step by step. That's the idea. Some things, simple rules work. Others, you gotta crunch every single step.
Okay, so how does that apply to ChatGPT? If it's hitting a wall, what does that wall look like?
Well, it's great at the patterns in language, but it can't really think through stuff that needs lots of steps. Logic, multi-step problems.
So poems are good, but forget solving some crazy equation.
You got it. The article had this funny example, matching parentheses, you know these things. In really long sequences, ChatGPT choked. It can't hold the whole problem in its mind at once.
So it's smart, but in a very specific way. There are these hard limits. It can't just magically do anything with language.
Yep. It needs what they call outside tools in the article. Calculators, databases, that kind of thing. To deal with certain problems. Like us, when you think about it, we use tools all the time.
True, true. Makes you wonder, though, what's next? Will AI get those tools built in someday? Break through that limit?
No, that's the question, isn't it? AI not just mimicking us, but using our knowledge, our tools. Wild stuff.
It really is. And one thing that blew my mind reading all this, it makes you see language differently.
Yeah.
If a machine can do it, maybe it's less magical, more rule-based than we thought.
That's deep. And the article touched on that too. ChatGPT might be forcing us to rethink the whole language thing.
Like, we always thought it was this mystical thing, but now we're seeing the code underneath.
Right. One article even said ChatGPT could help us find laws of language, maybe even laws of thought, simpler than we ever realized.
Whoa, laws of thought. That's getting deep. So it's not just about better chatbots, it's about cracking the code of how we think.
Exactly. If we understand those basic principles, man, the possibilities.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
Okay, say we figure out those laws of language, what changes in the real world?
Think about how we use computers now. All these commands, interfaces. What if we could talk to them like we talk to each other? Real understanding.
So actual conversations with AI, not just giving instructions.
Right. ChatGPT gives us a peek at that future. A world where the communication barrier, it's gone.
That's exciting and a little unnerving. But the article did get into some specifics, right? Like, how do we get there? They mentioned semantic grammar, and that just sounds intimidating.
It's fascinating, though. See, human language, it's so flexible, but also vague sometimes. We use metaphors, irony, all that. Computers need precision, clear instructions. Semantic grammar, it's about bridging that gap. Meaning, but in a way a computer gets.
So translating the messiness of human language into something a computer can work with.
Exactly. And there's a real-world example, Wolfram language.
Oh yeah, that's that super powerful programming language, right?
The one and only. And what's cool is it aims to represent everything.
Everything, like every single thing in the world. That's a tall order.
Ambitious, sure. But imagine a language where it's not just words. It's concepts, relationships, even physical objects, all precise enough for a computer to use.
So instead of typing apple, you'd have a symbol.
Yeah.
So the whole concept, color, taste, everything.
Exactly. And because it's symbolic, structured, you can use it for calculations, predictions, all sorts of things you can't do with normal words.
So it's like language, but with math built in.
Kind of. And the article made a strong case that this might be the way forward for AI. If we want them to get us, to think like us, we need that bridge. Human expression, but with computer precision.
Like building a bridge between two worlds,
Yeah.
Our world and the world of digital information.
Great way to put it. And how well we build that bridge, that's going to be huge for the future of, well, everything.
It's a lot to take in, that's for sure. Building this bridge between how we think and the digital world sounds like a long-term project.
It is. It is. But the cool thing is, we're not starting from scratch, We've got powerful tools already.
Right, like Wolfram language. That seems to be a recurring theme here.
Exactly. It shows us what's possible, representing almost anything and then computing with it.
So the seeds are there. But how do we go from here to there? I mean, it's not like we'll all be speaking Wolfram tomorrow.
Right. It's not about replacing human language completely, more like augmenting it, building tools that work with how our brains already operate.
So working with our natural way of thinking, not against it.
Exactly. Think of it as a partnership. Humans, we're good at the spark, right? The initial idea, the creative part. Then these computational tools, like a souped-up ChatGPT, they come in to help us explore those sparks in ways we never could before.
So instead of AI taking over, it's more like AI becoming this amazing collaborator, pushing the limits of what language and thinking can even do.
Now you're getting it. And in the process, we might even learn more about ourselves. Creativity, problem solving, heck, maybe even consciousness itself. Who knows?
I gotta say, this deep dive, it's taken us to some pretty unexpected places. Started with, how does ChatGPT work? Now we're talking about the future of, well, everything.
That's the best part of a deep dive. You never know what you'll find.
So true. But one thing's for sure, ChatGPT, even if it's not perfect, it's made us think differently. The future is coming at us fast, and the choices we make now about AI, about language, those are going to echo for a long, long time.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, on that note, I think we've done our deep dive for today, but got to leave you with a thought to chew on. If ChatGPT can do all this, with its limitations and all, what happens when AI can tap into the full power of human knowledge, of computation? That's a question worth asking, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's a future full of potential. A little uncertainty, sure, but that's what makes it exciting.
Well said. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. But keep those brains buzzing out there. Explore, ask questions, and keep diving deep.